Shalom, Israel. We're the Israelite School Universal Practical Knowledge. Started at 1 West 125th Street, Harlem, New York, under Commanding General Yana. We are not affiliated with any other Israelite group nor any other Christian organization, alright? So tonight's class is the history class. It's a very important class to understand, a very important class to attend. Like, we have to know this history when it comes to the Bible, man. Like, the Bible is the black man's history book. Like, the Bible is the Hispanic man's history book. Like, the Bible is the Native American man's history book. Alright? This is our culture. This is our heritage. The Bible is something we need to know when it comes to our history. Yes, are there other books we can go into besides the Bible to learn about our history? Absolutely. There's plenty of books like that we can go into, right, when it comes to history. But the Bible as well is a historical documentation of the life and the heritage and the culture and the traditions done by the Israelites, which are God's chosen people. So if you haven't known yet, if you are so-called black, Hispanic, or Native American, you are God's chosen people. Like, you are the Lord's chosen, you understand? If you're from the Navajo, from the Creek, or the Iroquois, or the Muskegee, or the Seminole, or the Blackfoot, or the Cherokee, or the Pequot, or the Mohawkins, the Mohegans, or the Comanche, you are God's chosen people. You understand? Like, if you are a so-called Negro or classified as an African American, black, if you come from the children of slaves, it's like if you are the children of slaves and you descend from the slaves of America, you are God's chosen people. If you are Cuban, Puerto Rican, if you're El Salvadorian, if you're whatever the case may be, so like if you're Mexican, if you're Dominican, you understand? If you're Peruvian, Brazilian, you understand? Like, you are God's chosen people, you understand? You are God's chosen people. Alright? This is a very important fact that we have to understand, alright? That we are God's chosen people. And this Bible is our history book. Alright? This is something that we have to understand. Now before we get into the lesson, does anybody have any questions? Does anybody have any questions? Select your warrior. No sweat, warrior. Does anybody have any questions before class? Before we get into the lesson, alright? Does anybody have any questions? Does anybody have any questions? If you guys have any questions, make sure you type it into the live chat and we'll get to your questions, alright? Good luck. Okay, no questions. All right. If you guys do have any questions during the lesson too as well, or during class, just make sure you put it into the live chat. All right, just make sure you type it into the live chat, and we will most definitely get to your questions. All right, even if the question is non-relatable to the topic, that's fine, and that's absolutely okay. Just make sure you type it into the chat. All right, that's all you got to do. No sweat. Alright. So, tonight we're going to talk about the case of the Slayer. Alright, it's part of our history, alright? It's part of our documentation. So this is in the law. So the case of the Slayer involves the law. Okay, so the case of the Slayer involves the law. This is a specific law that talks about if you accidentally, ignorantly, right, slay a person. All right, when you take a person's life ignorantly, like we have laws, right, in our culture, right? We have laws in our culture. We have laws in the Bible. We have laws, right, that we keep, which is considered to be our traditions. We have laws in the Bible when it comes to murder and thievery and robbery and rape and etc. etc. Just like in America's court system, they have laws that deal with rape, the different type of crimes. There are laws in America that have been set up when it comes to the crimes that people commit. When it comes to thievery, murder, rape, robbery, whatever the case may be, right? There's laws about these type of crimes, and then it lists the punishment of these crimes and what to do when someone commits these crimes, right? Well, and within our law, which is our culture, which is our heritage, which is a part of our history that we need to know when it comes to building the black community, when it comes to building the Latino community, when it comes to building the Native American community, this is something that we need to know. Like the Lord says, remember the days of old. Like this is what the Lord is talking about. When the Lord says remember the days of old, meaning remember the days in the past. Remember how we used to function as a people. Remember how we used to set our places up as a people. Remember how we used to have our homes and our houses and our families as a people. Like we need to remember these things and stop trying to adapt ourselves to other cultures and to other races of people. Right? Like we need to stop following these other nations of people. Like we need to stop adapting to their culture and adopting their culture. Right? We need to stop doing that. Right? Because it's not for us. But we do have a culture and a heritage of our own, which is a part of our history. That's why we're going to bring up the case of the Slayer and how Joshua also established laws when he conquered Israel, and right from the law when it comes about the case of the Slayer as well. So we're going to get it in two aspects and at 2 points of time when it comes to the case of the Slayer. We're going to bring up the time when Moses brought to the children of Israel about the case of the Slayer, and then we're going to bring a point of time in history where Joshua brought the case of the Slayer when it comes to establishing the nation of Israel. All right, when it comes to setting laws and order, when it comes within the nation of Israel. All right, Moses did it, Joshua did it. We're going to also, next week's class, I'm going to get more into Joshua as well, and then we're going to get more into the kings and all that other stuff and things like that. We're going to make sure we hit topic on the history, all right? I've been working on, Salakia, if I may, I've been working on a lot of history lessons so I can make sure I have these classes in order, so you guys actually know the different type of historic information biblically and also in different books as well. All right. Also, if you guys have any historical questions too, like Bobo Krashad, if y'all can, when you guys attend this class, if you guys have any historical questions, please ask those questions, and I can briefly not briefly, but I'll make a class for your question. All right. Like if you had a question about the Moors, I'll make a class about the Moors. You understand? Like if you guys have a class about ancient Europe, I'll make a class about ancient Europe. And and of course I'll get biblical information as well. Like remember, the Bible is a history book. All right? you're not going to be, okay, put it this way. You're going to ask a historical question. No way, shape, and form the Bible isn't going to be involved, because the Bible has been there during the times of history. Like, we can date back during the times of Egypt. If you go any further back than that, you know what I'm saying, you know, we can go all the way back to Adam and Eve. You understand? Like, we can go back as far as Adam and Eve. So we can talk about the Assyrian Empire. We can talk about Nimrod. We can talk about the Ethiopian Empire. We can talk about the Egyptian Empire, the Babylonian Empire. We can talk about the Persian and Medes Empire. That was during the time of Daniel. I brought that out last history class. We can talk about the Greeks, the Romans. You understand? Like, the Bible was there. Like, we were there. Like, our ancestors, the ones that we descend from, we were there. Our history and our records were constantly being made during these times. So there isn't going to be a question about history that the Bible isn't going to be involved with. So no matter what history question you may or may not have, please ask it, and we'll make a class about it. Because once again, the Bible will always be involved. Listen, our records date back to Adam and Eve, since the garden. So any historical question that we may have as a people, the Bible will always be involved. Like, the Bible deals with time period. Like, the Bible is historic. It's an historical documentation. So Bubba Kushah, if you have any history questions too as well, Bubba Kushah, you can ask as well, and we'll get through it. All right. So if you have any historical questions, please ask, and I'll make a lesson about it. If you have any biblical scripture questions during class, Bubba Kushah, just ask about it. And I'll get to it, all right? I'll most definitely get to it. There'll be no sweat, all right? So we're going to get into the lesson, all right? If you guys have any questions, put it into the live chat. Also, if you make sure you put your name, city, and state for attendance as well. All right? So we're going to get Deuteronomy chapter 31, verse 1. All right, we're going to start there. So during the time, right? So during the time of Moses, right? You had Joshua. Joshua was living during the times of Moses. And Joshua was next in charge after Moses. Like, this is very common in the Israelite culture. Like, this is part of our history. When one man steps down from coming in charge, right? Whatever the case may be, it could be him passing away, right? It could be him stepping down for old age or etc., etc. There was always a order to everything. There was always a command system to everything. Like, when it comes to our government, like the nation of Israel, we had our own government. We had our own nation. Like, we were our own race of people. We had a land. Eventually, when Joshua came around, we had a land of our own. That's how we were able to get the land of Israel, because Joshua came in charge after Moses. So we had an order to everything in Israel, right? We had an order and everything within Israel. Hey, warrior, watch out. We had an order and everything in Israel. So after Moses, it came Joshua, all right? And there was always one leader in charge of Israel. There was never more than one leader when it comes to the nation of Israel. There's always been one leader. Not many leaders. There wasn't a bunch of camps and groups and etc., things like that. It was Moses over the nation. Then it was Joshua over the nation. Then etc., all right? It's always been like that. It always will be like that. All right? That's something that we have to understand. All right? All right, so lucky. Good, watch it. All right. All right. So remember that there was always an order to everything. So let's get Deuteronomy chapter 31, verse 1. So Deuteronomy chapter 31, verse 1. And Moses went and spake these words unto all Israel. So in verse 1, Moses went and spake these words unto all Israel. So this right here in context, Moses was talking to the nation of Israel. Moses was talking to so-called blacks, Hispanics, and Native Americans. So right here off the rip, the context is about Israel. Something that we have to touch bases on. The Bible isn't for everybody. The Bible isn't an historical record or historical documents about everybody. It's about a certain particular race or nation of people. The Bible is about that. The Bible is about the Israelites. The Bible is about the Jews. The Bible is about so-called blacks, Hispanics, and Native Americans. That's what the Bible is about. That's who the Bible is talking about. The who, the whosoever, and the who that the Bible is always talking about, and the Bible is usually referring to, which is so-called blacks, Hispanics, and Native Americans, which is the nation of Israel, which are the Jews. We're just saying the same thing. All right, we're just saying the same thing. Okay, Israelites. Jews are Israelites. Okay, Israel are Israelites. Jews are Israelites. We're all Israelites. Doesn't matter where you come from. If you're from Cuba, if you are so-called black, Hispanic, so like a Native American, you are an Israelite. So now, verse 2. And he said unto them, I am 120 years old this day. So at this time, Moses said unto them, and he said unto them, meaning this is Moses talking to the nation of Israel. This is Moses talking to so-called blacks, Hispanics, and Native Americans, right? And he said unto them, I am 120 years old this day. So on this day that Moses was talking to the nation of Israel, he was 120 years old. Now that may sound very abnormal to some. Like, how could Moses and how could these people live for so long? Like, you have to understand a lot of things are different nowadays. Because of the culture and the heritage that we had, one second, princess, the things that we had and the culture that we had and the traditions that we kept, right? We had a certain way we lived, the way we ate, the way we did things. So we lived a little longer than we did now. Like the life expectancy of blacks, Hispanics, and Native Americans are sometimes at the age of 18, maybe 40 or 50 at max. Once you make it past 50, you lived a long life according to blacks, Hispanics, and Native Americans. Once you live over the age of 50, you good. You know, it's okay for you to go. You know what I'm saying? But back then, 120, hey, you was good. It was almost guaranteed you would make it to 80 because we weren't eating pork. We wasn't eating shrimp and lobster. We weren't being homosexuals. We weren't being lesbians. We wasn't catching all these type of diseases like chlamydia and gonorrhea and syphilis and all these things, you know what I'm saying? Because we lived a clean lifestyle instead of an unclean lifestyle. So we were able to live longer back then. Like a lot of people say, well, back in the day, people would actually die a lot younger. That's not true. Maybe in the so-called white man's culture, they died young, but that's because of the way they lived. They lived an unclean lifestyle. Like the so-called white man, our oppressor, they've always lived an unclean lifestyle. That's why they were dying from diseases like the Black Plague, because they were so disgusting and so vile in the things that they ate, and they never washed, and they didn't believe in bathing. Of course, your life expectancy would be short. But if you were an Israelite, and you followed God's laws, and you kept His commandments, and you didn't eat pork and shrimp and lobster, and you bathed the way you were supposed to be bathing, right? Like after sex and things like that. After your seed leaves you, and etc., etc. When we get into those type of laws, and you ate the correct foods, and you didn't have sex with a man when you were a man, and you didn't have sex with a woman when you were a woman, or you didn't have sex with a child when you're an adult. Man or woman, you get the point? Like, we lived a clean lifestyle. If you didn't do those things, you would live long. That's why this is not rocket science. Like, this is not magic. When the Lord said, if you keep my commandments and you obey your parents and all this, etc., etc., and let the days of your life be longer on earth, that's not magic. That's just real life. If you eat the right foods that the Lord told you to eat, your days will be longer on earth. If you keep stress out of your life and just listen to your goddamn parents every day like you're supposed to, and not stressing yourself up from not listening to them, maybe you will live longer and you won't get gray hairs by the time you're 30. I mean, this is not, I'm just letting y'all know this is not, it's not magic, this is not a fairy tale. When the Lord says certain things, I'm just here to give the reality of the situation. You know what I'm saying? It is what it is. Alright? This is not, the Bible isn't magic. You know, the Christian church made the Bible magical and made it as if it's some type of fairy tale. No, this is real life. This is reality. If you listen to your parents, because your parents have been through life, you won't be stressing yourself out, and maybe you can live a little longer. Maybe if you listen to your parents by not eating pork, maybe you won't die from high blood pressure. Did you ever think about that? You know what I'm saying? Now, of course, when it comes to obeying your parents and obediently, is listening to righteous men and women or fathers and mothers is how you would live longer on earth. Alright? So we won't get too far into that topic, but to quickly give a rundown, of course, if your parent is telling you to eat pork, that's not going to make you live longer, okay? Alright? You know, so let's not, you know, let us use our heads, you know what I'm saying? If I could, you know. Of course, if your parents told you to jump off a bridge, would you do it? Hell no, because that would kill you, right? So of course you want to think about, of course, if you're wise enough at that time, and you know if your parents are teaching you righteous things, you would be like, okay, I'm gonna listen because this is what I should be doing, and this would number my days on earth, and etc., etc. This is just real life. All right, we won't go too far into that topic because I want to focus on the case of the slayer and getting into the different points of Moses and Joshua when they were giving the law when it comes to the case of the slayer. All right. So on this day, Moses, so it says, and he said unto them, I am 120 years old this day. So Moses was 120 years old. All right. He was 120 years old this day. All right. All right. He was 120 years old this day. All right. He's 120 years old. All right. I can no more go out and come in. So he's saying I can no more go out and come in. So during this time, Moses, I can no more go out and come in. Why? Because he's older now. He's not able to do the things that he used to do. Like, you know, like his time is coming to an end. He's not a young spring chicken anymore. He's not able to walk around and give as many counsel as he used to. He's not able to, you know, rule the nation like he used to, and you know, go to the different families and talk to, you know, to the so-called blacks, Hispanics, and Native Americans over here, and give counsel here, and give the law here, and talk and set up the priests here, and give orders to the captains here, and give orders to the generals here, and give orders to the officers here, and things like that. Like, he's not able to do like that anymore because he's getting older. He's 120 years old. He's like, hey man, I mean, I gotta, you know, my time is up. I'm 120. I can no more go out and come in. Also, the Most High hath said unto me, thou shalt not go over this Jordan. And he's also reiterating the fact that the Lord even gave him, saying, I'm not going to make it to Jordan. So this is already prophesied that this is going to happen. Like, I'm not going to make it to see the nation of Israel, or to see the land of Israel. I'm not going to be able to make it over Jordan. So this is out of my hands anyway. Even if I was able to live a few more years, it doesn't matter. Because those few more years, we not going anywhere until I go, because that's what the Lord said. All right. Verse 3. The Most High thy power, he will go over before thee. Right. So he says he will go over before thee, and he will destroy these nations from before thee. So it says the Most High thy power. Right. And right here, I'm going to read it verbatim in this case. The Lord thy God. When I say the Most High thy power, those words in the Bible are saying the Lord thy God. Now thy is Old English for your, meaning this is a possessive, that's a possessive pronoun, meaning that's ownership. Like, this is our power. Like the Lord of the Bible, like the power of the Bible is our power. Like the God of the Bible is our power. Like the Lord is ours. Like the Lord is for the Israelites. Like, these are key words and key aspects that we have to read into and understand when it comes to reading the Bible. Like, small things like that will give context to a Christian, right? Like, that will give context to a Christian that doesn't know the Bible. These certain words to know, like to understand the difference between a possessive pronoun and just a regular pronoun, like a subject pronoun or some object pronoun. Like, these are differences that we would have to know, and we have to know these definitions so we can have a better understanding of what the Lord is trying to tell so-called blacks, Hispanics, and Native Americans. So right here it says the Lord thy power. So like the Most High thy power. right? Meaning it's our power. He belongs to us. He's our God. He's the God of Israel. He's the God of the Israelites. He will go over before thee. So it said he will go over before thee, meaning he's going to go. Meaning he's going to be with you. He's going to shadow you. Like he's going to be the protection over you, right? He said he will go over before thee, right? Like he will go over before thee, right? Meaning the Lord, so it's like it, to make sense of it, the Lord's going to go over there before we do. Meaning the Lord is going to set things up already there before we even touch down. Meaning this is according to plan. So I'm gonna recheck what I previously said. What I want to say is the Lord setting everything up. Like this is according to plan. Like this is what's going to happen. Like the Lord set up for us to have the land of Canaan, which is going to be known now as the land of Israel. You understand that? Like this is according to plan. So he will go over before thee, and he will destroy these nations from before thee. Like the Lord is going to destroy these nations before thee. So who's ever in the land of Canaan, the Lord is going to destroy these nations. Like at one point in time, this land was promised to us since Abraham. Like this land was promised since Abraham, you understand? Like our forefathers, Abraham, Isaac, and then Jacob. Then Jacob's new name became Israel. Like the land of Israel, right? Which is, okay, the land of Israel that was previously known as the land of Canaan, right? That land was prophesied for us to have. Like the Lord gave us that land. Like, you know, nowadays and today, the biggest thing right now going on in the Middle East right now is who's supposed to have Israel. Like that's a common debate right now and a common battle. And wars are happening right now because of it. Because the world wants to know, and the world is trying to figure out, who does this land really belong to? Who does this holy land belong to? Does it belong to the Muslims, or does it belong to those Jewish people that are in the state of Israel now? Well, of course, in the ISUPK, we're going to tell you it belongs to none of them. It neither belongs to the Muslims, and it does not, definitely not belong to those white, the so-called white man, which are now that Jewish man, those fake Jews, right? It definitely doesn't belong to them. Those hook-nosed bastards. It doesn't belong to them at all. The land of Israel belongs to the Israelites. It belongs to the Jews, which are the so-called blacks, Hispanics, and Native Americans. So there's a common fight right now, right? Like there's a battle going on right now, and there's a war going on right now in that land, which is now known as the Middle East, of who does this land belong to? The Muslims or the Jewish man? All right. Now, of course, within our records in the Bible, the Lord promised that land to Israel because those Muslims belong to Ishmael, and those Muslims do not belong to Israel, which means they were promised nothing when it comes to Israel. Now, whatever land that they have now, that land was given to them by the Lord. Right? Now of course that's another history lesson, right? Historically speaking, when it comes to the Ishmaelites and Muslims. And I'll go over another topic like that again. I remember I went into real detail about that. You can look it up online. It's on the ISBK Virginia page about those videos that we have as well. Alright. There's a Muslim history class about that too as well. I went over the history of Islam, Muslim, and the different tribes like the Qadarites, all that good business. The sons of Ishmael, I went into, fine line detail. Alright. So it says he will destroy these nations from before thee. Like the Lord is going to destroy these nations in the land of Canaan. Like the Lord, this is something that we have to understand. When we serve the Lord will always be on our side. And the Lord will destroy our enemies. So before we came into the land of Canaan, the Lord was going to destroy our enemies. You understand? The Lord was going to destroy those nations so we can have that land. Like that's how much love the Lord has for Israel. That He is going to take the land that He promised to us, and He's going to take those nations out of it by destroying them so we can have a place to live. Because He chose us over all the nations on the earth. He chose us over all the races of the earth. Like that's how much love the God of Israel, the power of this Bible, loved his people, which were the Israelites, which were the Jews. That he gave us our own land by evicting another nation of people out of that land. You understand? Like, that's how much love he had for us. Like, there was an eviction notice for those Canaanites there, and those Moabites there, and those Ammonites there. Like, there was an eviction notice for them. It was a wrap. Like, that land was going to be ours and will be ours, because it was promised from us from the Lord, and the Lord was already setting this up. All right. And thou shalt possess them. Salakia. And thou shalt possess them. And Joshua, he shall go over before thee. Salakia. And thou shalt possess them. Salakia, I can't skip over that. Salakia, I almost skipped over that. Salakia. And thou shalt possess them. Like, this is something that we have to understand. Like, that's a real solid point right there. It says, and thou shalt, meaning this will happen, possess them, meaning those nations in the land of Canaan that's going to become Israel, we're going to possess them, meaning those nations are going to be our possession. What does that sound like to you? What does that sound like to you? Right? What does that sound like to you? Anyone online, answer that question, Baba Bashar. What does that sound like to you? Say again? Okay, I'll talk to you about that. Alright, I'm going to talk to you about that. One question, Jared. I'll talk to you about that. No, because that's a good question. Because I was the last one to speak, and you didn't get back to me on that thing. That is wisdom. Okay. I said, I need why couldn't you get it out? Mosai Christ, Salaki. Right, slavery. Right, that's slavery in the Bible. Right there, that's slavery. Now, of course, right, now that's slavery. Like, the Lord, like, listen, these other nations were always supposed to be our possession. Like, we were supposed to possess these nations. Like, we were supposed to rule over the earth and rule these nations. Like, the Lord was setting us up for success. Like, that's success. Like, the seat that these devils have now, that's supposed to be our seat. Like, these devils rule the earth. Like, these devils run the earth. They run continent after continent after country after country. Like, this is what these devils do. That's supposed to be our seat. We were supposed to be ruling this earth. We're supposed to be ruling these nations and ruling these continents. Right? And we would have ruled it righteously. We wouldn't be as wicked as these devils, man. We wouldn't be as wicked as these devils. Listen, this is very important for so-called blacks, Hispanics, and Native Americans to understand. Our oppressor is the damn devil that the Bible speaks of, man. Like, this is our earth that the Lord gave to us to rule. And the Lord is setting this up right now during the time of Moses and letting us know in the land of Canaan, that's going to be the land of Israel. Those nations that are already living there, they're going to be our possession. They're going to be our property. Meaning they're going to serve us. When we tell them to do something, they're going to do it. When we say go out in that field, they're going to go out in that field. When we say open up your markets, they're going to open up their markets. When we say you got to pay this, they're going to pay us our money. When we put a taxes on the land, they're going to pay that taxes. They're going to pay retribute to the king, or whatever the case may be. Like, this is what these other nations are supposed to be, that are going to do for the nation of Israel. Because that's how the Lord set it up. Like, the roles are switched right now. We were never supposed to serve these other nations. Like, we serve our oppressor. We serve our oppressors. We serve the so-called white man. We serve the African. We serve the Asian. We serve the Japs and the Chinese and the Muslims. Like, we serve them. You understand? Like, they're on top of us. They were never supposed to have that type of seat over us. But when we disobeyed God and we disobeyed the Lord, our roles were switched. And now we're serving them even though they were supposed to be serving us. They have us as a possession even though we were supposed to have them as a possession. You understand? Like, we have an ancient, like, listen, right now, there were Moabites in the land of Canaan. I mean, it's like it. Ammonites. They were Ammonites. There may have been Moabites, but I know for sure there were Ammonites. Alright, but for sure there were Ammonites in the land of Canaan, which would be known as the Japanese today. That's part of your Asian hate right there. That's your Asian hate. Like, you understand? Like in America, they passed a bill to stop hate on Asians, which involved the Vietnamese, the Koreans, maybe a little bit of the Filipinos, the Chinese, the Japanese. Like, that's your Asian hate bill right there, right? They passed an Asian hate bill in America before they passed any hate bill for blacks, Hispanics, and Native Americans in America. You understand that? But in the land of Israel, that Asian hate bill would have never been passed, because we would have been ruling over them Asians, over them Japanese and them Chinese, and them Koreans and them Vietnamese, and etc., etc. You understand? And Joshua, the one that the leader after Moses, he shall go over before thee, as the Most High have said. Now, just like the Most High have said, Joshua is going to go over there too. Like, Joshua plays a very important role when it comes to establishing Israel. So, like, if I could, Joshua is very important when it comes to establishing the nation of Israel, and when it comes to building up Israel. Joshua plays a very important part, because now we're in Israel when it comes to Joshua, when it comes to conquering the land of Canaan, and etc., etc. All right, verse 4. And the Most High shall do unto them as he did to Sihon and to Og, kings of the Amorites, and unto the land of them whom he destroyed. So just like how the Lord did to Shiloh, so like to Sihon and to Og and the king of the Amorites, He's going to do the same thing to those nations in the land of Canaan. Like, the Lord's going to do the very same thing. Verse 5. And the Most High shall give them up before your face, that ye may do unto them according unto all the commandments which I have commanded you. So, out of all the commands and commandments that the Lord told us to do, right? So, okay, I'm going to start from verse 5, because I'm going to break it down slowly. And the Most High shall give them up before your face. So in front of us, we're going to see our enemies fall by the hands of the Lord. Like, this is going to be of the Lord. When we go into the land of Canaan and conquer Israel, and we take over these nations so they can be our possession, this is like, it's going to be right in front of us, and we're going to know that this is of the Lord. And then it says, that ye may do unto them according to all the commandments, so that ye may do unto them, meaning these things that you will do to them, that ye may do unto them, right? Meaning the things that you're going to do to them, according unto all the commandments which I have commanded you. So the things that we're going to do to them are going to be according to the commandments that are in the Bible that the Lord said for us to do. Right? That the Lord commanded us to do. Can anybody, if anybody's paying attention, or anybody knows the Bible, any of my biblical scholars out there, what commandments what commandments is the Lord talking about here? What can you guys give me some commandments that the Lord said to do unto the nations? Can anybody think of any? You know, anybody think of any real quick before I continue? Right? Well, while I continue, give me some commandments that the Lord said to do unto these other nations. Because this is what the Lord said. This is what's going to happen in our face, right? That ye may do unto them according unto all the commandments which I have commanded you. So which are all those commandments which the Lord commanded us to do to the other nations? Anybody tell me? This is proof of how you know what Joshua did was righteous, because it was according to God's law. Like, Joshua didn't unrighteously take that land. Joshua righteously took that land because that land was given to us by the Most High. And these other nations knew it. And these other nations understood it. You understand? Verse 5. It's lucky, not verse 5. Verse 6. Be strong and of a good courage. So Moses is talking to Joshua, right? And saying, be strong and of a good courage. Meaning have courage, be strong, be brave, be fearless. Fear not, nor be afraid of them. Meaning do not be afraid of these other nations. Have some courage. Be strong. Don't be a coward. Be one West. Be Isupk. Conquer. Understand? Conquer, destroy, and build up. You understand? Like that's what Moses is saying. For the Most High thy power, He it is that doth go with thee. He it is that doth go with thee. Meaning the Lord is going to be with you. Like don't be afraid. Don't be a coward. As long as you're righteous and you're keeping these laws, statutes, commandments, the Lord is going to be with you. You understand? Like that's what the Lord is saying. As long as we keep these laws, statutes, commandments, when we go into the land of Canaan, and when we take this land to be ours, and those people to be our possession, don't be afraid. Don't be a coward. You know what I'm saying? Be strong. Be of good courage. Because the Lord is going to be with us. Alright? He will not fail thee, nor forsake thee. Meaning the Lord is not going to fail us. He's not going to abandon us. He's not going to forsake us. Because we're going to be righteous. We're keeping His laws. We're keeping His statutes. We're keeping His commandments. This is the land that the Lord promised us. You understand? Verse 7. And Moses called unto Joshua, and said unto him in the sight of all Israel, be strong, and of a good courage. So now Moses is talking to Joshua in front of all Israel. Be strong, and of good courage, for thou must go with this people unto the land, which the Most High hath sworn unto their fathers to give them. So he's saying, listen, in front of all Israel, listen, Joshua, be strong, be brave, don't be a coward, because this is the land that the Lord promised us, and the Lord is going to be with you, and they're going to take the nation of Israel into the land of Canaan, and we're going to establish this land to be the land of Israel. And thou shalt cause them to inherit it. It says, and thou shalt cause them to inherit it. Meaning this land is our inheritance. Yerash in the Hebrew. Yerash meaning to inherit, right? So inherit it, meaning we're going to Yerash this land, right? We're going to inherit this land. You understand that? Everybody understands that? All right. This land is inherited, right, to the so-called Blacks, Hispanics, and Native Americans. Like this land is an inheritance unto the Israelites, unto the Jews. All right. Let's see. Verse 8. And the Most High, He it is that doth go before thee, and He will be with thee. He will not fail thee, neither forsake thee. Fear not, neither be dismayed. So now Moses is reiterating, right, to all of Israel, including Joshua, do not be afraid. The Lord is going to be with you. Do not be a coward, because the Lord is going to be with you. Verse 9. And Moses wrote this law, and delivered it unto the priests the sons of Levi, which bear the ark of the covenant of the Most High, and unto all the elders of Israel. And Moses wrote this law. Meaning this was a law. Meaning this is what's going to happen. Meaning this is what you will do. We're going to go into the land of Canaan, and we're going to take Israel. We're going to take Canaan, and we're going to inherit it. And it's going to be our land, and the land is going to be the nation of Israel, and Joshua is going to do it. Like the Lord, like he made it a law to not be afraid, because the Lord is going to be with you, to go into this land and take it for it to be our possession. Alright? Let's get Deuteronomy chapter 34, verse 9. Alright? Deuteronomy chapter 34, verse 9. And Joshua, the son of Nun, was full of the spirit of wisdom. Like, this is another reason why, like, the Lord, like, listen, like, Joshua was next in line. Like, this is of the Lord, right? Like, this is how it works. You understand? Like, there's always one leader in charge of Israel. And specifically, Joshua, he had the spirit of wisdom. Meaning, Joshua, he understood the law. He understood what it meant to serve the Lord. He understood what it meant when it comes to ruling a nation of people and guiding a nation of people. Like, not everyone is fit to lead a nation of people. Like, to lead a nation of people and to be in charge of an entire nation of people is a very important job, and not everyone has the capability and the capacity of doing it. Like, I understand a lot of these brothers, like, that are in the world, that want to do for the black community. I understand the zeal that we all have when it comes to fixing black people. But it's a very important responsibility and a very important duty when it comes to being in charge of a nation of people. That takes a lot of work. It takes a lot of stress. Even Moses was stressed that he needed other brothers to help him. That's why you have generals and captains and officers to this day. Like the Isupk has captains and officers, generals, captains, and officers to this day, because it's in our law to do so. So all that stress is not just on one man when it comes to ruling a nation of people. It takes a lot to rule a nation of people. Even in the kingdom of heaven, even Christ is going to set his government up according to the law of the Israelites, to have generals and captains and officers. You understand? Like, that's how other governments do it. But they call themselves Congress members, and senators, and governors, and city hall councilors, and etc., etc. Well, guess what? In our law, they're called generals, captains, officers, counselors, and judges. You understand? Like, it's all like, listen, this ain't magic. This ain't a fairy tale. This is reality right here, right? So the spirit of wisdom, like Joshua had the spirit of wisdom. For Moses had laid his hands upon him. Meaning Moses had laid his hands upon him. Meaning the Lord laid his hands upon Joshua. Meaning you are next in line. And the children of Israel hearkened unto him, and did as the Lord commanded Moses. So because what the Lord set up just now, the children of Israel understood Joshua is who we're going to listen to next. He is our next leader. This is of the Lord. Like, this is the chain of command of the Lord. The next man in line is the next man to rule the nation. It's always been like that. And it always will be like that until Christ returns. It's always been like that. This is in the Bible. This is in our law. This is in our records. You understand? So now, we got knowing about Joshua pretty much out the way. Like this, so now we know that Joshua is the leader, after Moses, is now the leader of Israel. Meaning Israel is in the responsibility of Joshua. Like Joshua is now the ruler and the leader over so-called blacks, Hispanics, and Native Americans, which are the Israelites according to the Bible, right? This is Joshua's responsibility now. This is Joshua's duty now. Like Joshua is now in charge of the government of Israel. Like, this is a very important responsibility and duty to have. Like, that's why it's something important. That's why we say to brothers all the time, this job that we do as priests is very important. To be a priest and officer, to even be a priest and captain, to even be a priest and general, this is a very important responsibility and duty to have when it comes to building and protecting and guiding the entire nation of Israel. It's not all about getting wives. It's not all. It's not all about fun and games and drinking alcohol and the brotherhood and all that. It's not all about that. If anything, that's literally 0% of what it is. You understand? Like that. Like in reality, that's 0%. 100% is keeping God's laws, statutes, commandments, and establishing the government of Christ. So we can save as many brothers as we can and take the brothers and sisters out of the hell that we live in America. That's the responsibility of Joshua. Joshua is about to take the brothers and sisters of Israel out of the hell that we're living in the wilderness and bringing them into the land of Canaan, which will now be Israel, so we can live a lawful, righteous, clean lifestyle. You understand? All right. So let's get Joshua. Let's get Joshua chapter 20. Let's get Joshua chapter 20. I want to say it's verse 20. All right. So this is Joshua chapter 20. Now here's the account. Do I want to go Joshua chapter 20 first? Let me see. I might get Deuteronomy chapter 19 verse. Okay, so like I'll do Joshua chapter 20, then I'll go to Deuteronomy chapter 19. I'll go to Deuteronomy chapter 19 after 20. So Joshua chapter 20 verse 1. The Most High also spake unto Joshua, saying. So the Lord is now speaking to Joshua at this point. So this is a little bit during the time of Joshua still conquering the land of Israel and giving out the portions of Israel to the Gadites, to the Reubenites, to the Issacharites, to the Naphtalites, to the Simeonites, to the Ephraimites, to the Judites, to the Benjamites, etc., etc. All right, like he's dividing the land into the parts of where each tribe will live. All right. So this is during this time. All right. I think it's like during or like this is a little bit. This is during this time. So like I said it correctly. This is during this time. Verse 2. Speak to the children of Israel, saying, appoint out for you cities of refuge. So it says, speak to the children of Israel. So speak to the children of Israel, right? To so-called blacks, Hispanics, and Native Americans. Say, appoint out for you cities of refuge. So now it is Joshua's duty, right? It is now Joshua's duty to appoint out for you cities of refuge. Wherefore I spake unto you by the hand of Moses. So now it's Joshua's job to actually appoint these cities of refuge. Just like whereof, right, I spake unto you by the hand of Moses. So the same thing that I spoke to Moses about, this is now your job to do. So now let's bounce to Deuteronomy chapter 19. And then we'll come back to Joshua 20. So Deuteronomy chapter 19 verse 1. When the Most High thy power hath cut off the nations, whose land the Most High thy power giveth thee. Now this right here is giving you the context. It says, when the Most High thy power hath cut off the nations. This is talking about when Joshua goes into the land of Canaan. Whose land the Most High thy power giveth thee. The land of Canaan is the land that the Most High is going to be given to the Israelites as a possession, right? And thou succeedest them, meaning you conquer them, and you overtake them, right? And now they become your possession. And this land is now your possession. And dwellest in their cities and in their houses. So now you dwell here. Now you live here. Now this becomes your bayat. Now this becomes your tabernacles. This becomes your dwelling place. This is where you're going to live. Verse 2. Thou shalt separate 3 cities for thee in the midst of thy land. So the Lord gave an order and the Lord gave a command that we are to separate 3 cities, right, for us in the midst of thy land, right, meaning in our land, which the Most High thy power giveth thee to possess it. So it was an order from the Lord to take a part of the land, right, and to take a part of the land and separate it into three parts, right, for cities, right. So we were going to separate three cities within our land, all right, that the Most High gave to us to possess, all right. Verse 3: Thou shalt prepare thee a way and divide the coast of thy land, which the Most High thy power giveth thee to inherit, into three parts, that every slayer may flee thither. Thither is Old English meaning there, right? So thither is Old English, Old Quaker English for there. So we are supposed to prepare a way and divide the coast of the land. Right, the coast is where the water is. So the coast of the land, which the Lord gave us to inherit, into three parts. So the coast of the lands, we're going to divide them into three parts, that every slayer may flee thither. A slayer, right, is someone that slays somebody. Someone that slays some. So a slayer is someone that slays. All right. So a slayer is someone that slays. Now the Lord in the next scriptures is going to specifically talk about a specific slayer. Alright? The Lord is going to specify on the type of slayer that the Lord is going to be talking about. So the Lord is going to specify on the specific slayer when he's about to talk about, alright? So Deuteronomy chapter 19 verse 4. And this is the case of the slayer. Right? So this is the case of the slayer. Like this is the guidelines we are to follow and live by, right, when it comes to being a slayer. Which shall flee thither, right? Which shall flee thither, meaning which shall flee there, meaning that shall flee to these three cities that we separated from the coast of our land, that the Lord gave us to inherit. That he may live. The reason why we're doing this is so the slayer has the opportunity of living. And here's why the Lord is trying to give this slayer an opportunity to live. Alright? Like the Lord is trying to give this slayer, right, that would be an Israelite, an opportunity to live. And here's why. Whoso killeth his neighbor, right? Whoso killeth his neighbor ignorantly, right? So this slayer, this specific slayer, is someone that kills his neighbor ignorantly, meaning it wasn't purposely done. It was unknowingly done. Like this is the reason behind it. You understand? So it says, whoso killeth his neighbor ignorantly, meaning this was not purposely done. This was an accident. It was unknowingly. So this is not about a slayer that purposely murdered somebody, because there are laws that are put into place if you purposely murder a brother. There's a death penalty for that. You cannot just murder somebody. You cannot just murder someone for no reason. You cannot just kill someone for no... Sorry, not murder someone. You cannot kill somebody for no reason at all. And the Lord dealt in so many reasons according to our law to how to deal with these situations. Because we are not to just bring justice among ourselves just because. Like just because you do something to me, the Lord did not give me the right to kill you. Just because you did this, I have no right, according to God's law, to just murder you. Like that's why Christ came and said, you may have heard in our law, an eye for an eye, a tooth for a tooth. You understand? Like the Lord, like listen, like this is not to go into brotherhood, right? But this kind of goes into brotherhood. And, not to go too far into it. But we're going to talk about the slayer, all right? So there are laws specifically how to deal with each other, to deal with our neighbors. And our neighbors are who? For time's sake, I'll tell you, your neighbor is another Israelite. Someone that comes from your nation and from your race of people, from your flesh, from your kin, from your family. All right, from your nation, from your race. All right, that's who your neighbor is. So your neighbor would be another Israelite or another Jew or another so-called black, Hispanic, or Native American. So that's who your neighbor would be. So if we accidentally, ignorantly, right, if we ignorantly slay our neighbor, right, this is the law that the Lord put into place. All right, you know what I'm saying? Like you have to give you a modern day. Can anyone give me a modern day law in America's law when it comes to accidentally killing someone? Can anybody tell me what do they call it? Does anybody know what it's called? Does anybody know what it's called when you accidentally kill someone in America's law? Y'all can tell me. Not okay. Stand your ground. Not quite. Not that law. Stand your ground is more so their self-defense law, and that gives you permission to kill somebody, even though the Lord did not give us permission to kill anybody. So we don't want to do that. All right. So not stand your ground. Not so much that. Manslaughter. Okay. You're missing a word in front of it, Aquafta, but you're correct. Accidental manslaughter. That's correct. Accidental manslaughter. That's the law. But Aquafta, you're correct. Accidental manslaughter. Right? Like when you get into a car accident. Right? When you get into a car accident, first off, it's an accident. But because you may have hit that person's car, right? Depending on the force and how many miles per hour you were going, you may have accidentally killed somebody. Now think about if this was in Israel. We're among Israelites and we hit each other, we have a car accident, and you accidentally kill that person. This is the law. Right here, this is what we would follow. This is right here this is the guideline we would live by when it comes to things like that. All right? America has their guidelines when you accidentally manslaughter somebody. I believe sometimes you go, I don't know the exact law on it, but I think you do time in prison, or you may do time in jail. Like there's different stipulations to it, depending on your race in reality. But you can either go to, I think maximum punishment, they'll tell you, is prison. Maximum punishment is always prison. Like in America's guidelines, they'll tell you the maximum punishment is usually prison. And then there's lower punishments off the same crime, depending on how good your lawyer is and all this nonsense. Like, you know, that causes injustice. That's why America's law system has so much injustice in it, because it's not ran correctly. It's not right. It's not of the Lord. No matter what crime you commit, the law is always, the punishment will always be the same in Israel. But in America, depending how good your lawyer is, and depending, you know, who you know, right, and what your race is, depends on what punishment you get. In Israel, if we were ruling the nation, if we were ruling the earth, it doesn't matter if you were pink, blue, green, yellow. If you murdered someone, there's a punishment for that. If you accidentally manslaughtered someone, which is the case of the slayer, there's a punishment for that, and there's a way to go about it. Like, we have set guidelines no matter how rich or poor you are. I'm saying these words purposely because these are things in the Bible. Alright? These are things being said in the Bible purposely to let you know that this is the government that the Lord established, and these are the laws that the Lord established. And you might want to look at these laws instead of looking at the injustice in America's laws and try to keep following them and being abiding under them. Alright? Disclaimer, we're not saying break America's laws. That's not what I just said. What I'm saying is there's injustice in America's law system, and you might want to realize to get the hell out of it and have a law system of your own, like the Asians do. That's why the Asians had a hate crime bill just passed, because they have a law of their own. And America knows better to not make a law for them, because it will start a war with whatever country it was with. All right? You can't just treat another race of people a certain way and get away with it. Like, you know, I think I brought that out in other classes too, so for time's sake, I won't go too much into that. All right? whom he hated not in time past. So when it comes to you accidentally slaying this brother, there was no hate involved. It's not like you hated this brother, so you said, you know what, I'm going to take my car and I'm going to ram it, I'm going to ream him in the back. You know what I'm saying? Like, there was no real reason. Like, you didn't hate this brother at all. You didn't hate this sister at all. You didn't purposely kill this sister. You did not purposely slay this brother or slay this sister. This is specifically talking about a brother or sister ignorantly slaying another. Verse 5. Alright? As when a man goeth into the wood with his neighbor to hew wood. Alright, so when it says, when a man goeth into the wood, meaning going into the woods, right? Going into like a place where there's wood, with his neighbor, meaning he's with someone. He's with another Israelite. He's with another Black, Hispanic, and Native American. Alright? And it says who. That's like not who. Hew. Right? H-E-W, meaning hew. Right? To hew wood. What does it mean to hew wood? It means to cut it down. Right? To chop wood. Alright? So that's what that means. To chop wood. Hew is to chop or cut wood. Alright? So, and when a man goeth into the wood with his neighbor to hew wood, so he went with another Israelite to cut down wood, and his hand fetcheth a stroke with the axe to cut down the tree. So his hand fetcheth, meaning his hand goes with his stroke. Here's the axe, and he's cutting down the tree. Alright? Now back in the day, I used to actually cut down trees. And on a sidebar, it's very, very hard. It's very hard work to cut down trees for firewood. And there's rules when you go out to cut wood to stand a certain amount of distance away from each other, so situations like this does not happen. But we're about to explain why. But of course, accidents do happen. So the Lord's about to explain one. Right? And the head slippereth. The head, meaning the head of the axe, it slips. So it misses the tree, or it did hit the tree, but because of the angle of the tree, it slid off the tree, and whatever the case may be. And the head slipper from the helve, right? From the helve. The helve is the tool, right? Or the weapon being used, right? Which would be the axe, right? So the helve is like the tool that's being used. So let's say it slips from the helve. It slips from the tool itself, and lighteth upon his neighbor, meaning it hits his neighbor. So the head of the tool, it hits the neighbor. It hits that fellow Israelite. It's like it hits that fellow Israelite. It hits that so-called Black, Hispanic, and Native American. That he died. So this accident, the slipper of the head, right, from the helve, when it hit the neighbor, it killed him. It killed this brother, or it killed this sister. Alright? He shall flee unto one of those cities, right? And live. So he shall flee unto one of these cities. So the Lord set up these cities so a brother like this or a sister like this can flee to one of these cities, right? So they can stay alive. The Lord is about now, those cities are those three cities that the Lord commanded Moses when we go into the land of Israel, or it's like the land of Canaan, that will become the land of Israel, to separate them from the coast. These are those three cities. Right? Those three cities. Alright, verse 6. Lest. Lest is a word meaning something bad happens. Like when the Lord says lest, meaning something bad is happening or something bad is going to happen. Lest the avenger of the blood pursue the slayer. So it says the avenger of the blood pursue the slayer. What does that mean? The avenger of the blood pursue the slayer. The avenger is someone that's going to avenge. Like an avenger is someone that avenges, meaning gets payback. Right? So let the avenger of the blood meaning the blood is the what? the brother or the sister that was just killed by accident. Pursue the slayer. Pursue meaning go after. The slayer is the person that accidentally slayed his neighbor. Right? It says, lest the avenger of blood pursue the slayer. This happens a lot in Israel. Because someone, it could be either purposely done or even accidentally done. We want payback for the life you took from us. Like for an example, if my father was killed in a DUI accident, right? In a car accident, let's not even say DUI. Let's just say any type of accident, right? Because DUI is kind of like, nowadays it's like there's a way to prevent that, and we see that as you killed. Actually, Salakia, that might just be a good example. Salakia, and we see it as you just killed my family. Like you just killed my family. Like you could have prevented this from happening. Like there's no excuse. You just killed my father. Like why did you take that many drinks that night? Why did you drink that much? Why did you get into your vehicle? My father would still be alive if you did not drink that much. My father would be alive if you just turned your turning signal on. My father would still be alive if you didn't want to run that red light. Now I want your life. Because you took my father's life, now I want your life. For some reason, I just want your life. I feel better about myself if you're no longer living, because now my father's not living because of you. Even though it was a complete accident. Right? Even though it was a complete accident, that the spirit that's on that brother, right, he's not thinking that it's an accident. All that brother or sister is seeing is that you just killed my father. That's why the Lord set this in place. Because he knows how Israel is. We're all about payback. Right? Israel's all about getting back. Israel's all about revenge. Like that's why there's a problem in the Black, Hispanic, and Native American community today, and we can no longer get along with each other because we're all about avenge. We're all about avenging each other and revenging each other, and that's why we end up just killing each other to the point of no return and for no reason at all. And there's a better way of solving these situations, and it could all be solved through counsel and having righteous counsel under the authority of Christ. That's why when Christ came and said, I know in your law it said tooth for tooth, or eye for an eye, tooth for a tooth, a life for a life. Right? That's why Christ had to come on the scene and explain certain things. Because the Lord knows how we are as a people. We ready. You understand? Like we ready. You step on us, we ready to step on you. No sweat. You understand? That's how Israel's set up. That's how the earth is set up. You know what I'm saying? That's why America flies a flag saying, don't tread on me. Because once you tread on them, they're going to tread right back on you. You understand? Like 9/11 wasn't unanswered for. America is still in the Middle East making Muslims pay for 9/11. So you don't think a simple matter of you taking the life of someone's loved one wouldn't be settled the same way and have that same spirit at heart? But because of Christianity, that type of spirit is weakened. Because there's nothing wrong with that spirit, but there's a way to deal with that spirit righteously to bring no further harm to your neighbor. You understand? Does everybody kind of understand what I'm getting at? Say Khan Allah, so I know you guys kind of get the gist of where I'm coming from. That's more so on the brotherhood perspective. Alright. Just like, for an example, when Moses killed that Egyptian, he had the right spirit, but his action was wrong. He was in the right to have that spirit because he's seen the wrongdoings of his people and his people being oppressed and damn near about to be murdered. So that Egyptian got. His spirit was right, but there was a better way to not murder that Egyptian. There was a better way to solve that issue without killing that Egyptian and still allowing those Israelites to live. All right, something along those lines. Let the avenger of the blood pursue the slayer, while his heart is hot. It says while his heart is hot. What does it mean for your heart to be hot? Like, this is how you know it's a black man's book. You're not going to understand. You're not going to understand that if you're not black. You're not going to understand that if you're not Hispanic. Like, this is a Hispanic man's book. Only we talk like this. Like, this is a Latino man's book. Only we talk like this. This is a Native American man's book. Only we talk like this. What does it mean while his heart is hot? Your heart is referring to your what? Not this. This is not your heart. This is just an organ that pumps blood. Your heart is your mind. Your heart is your brain. Your heart is your head. So it says while his heart is hot. Meaning while his heart is hot, meaning he's angry. He's upset. He's mad. He's angry. He's furious. Right? While his heart is hot, he's infuriated. He's furious. He's mad. He's angry. So all in his mind, there's murder on my mind. Like that right there. That's right there. There's murder on his mind. There's like, hey man, there's an avenging on his mind. Right? And overtake him. Now the Lord said overtake him, because the Lord is not giving an okay for you to be hot-hearted. It's like to be hot-hearted, and to go and avenge and slay this man because he accidentally slayed someone of your family or your friend or someone you knew that was close to you. That's why the Lord said overtake him, because this isn't supposed to happen. You're supposed to be like, you know what? Let me calm down. Let me think about the situation. You know, he was in a rush to work. It was an accident. Accidents happen. You know what I'm saying? He was out in the woods. You know what I'm saying? Who would have known that the axe could slip that way? You know that there was no way of telling that the axe was kind of loose, or that the tree was a little damp, and so, or the blade wasn't as sharp on the axe. Of course, if you're thinking like this, you're calm. Your heart is what? Cold. So you're cold-hearted. Not in the sense of not caring. Cold-hearted meaning you're not upset, or you're not angry, you're not mad, you're not infuriated, you're not furious. So you're thinking logical now. So you're no longer thinking in emotion, and you're just hot-blooded, and you're just going off the plan handle. You're actually thinking of the situation and how to solve this situation the right way and justly, right? And do it the right way. Because the way is long, and slay him. Right? So because the way is long, right? The way that he has to go, and slay him. Meaning he gets his hand on that brother. Meaning once he or she gets that hand on that brother or sister, that's that brother or sister's life. Whereas he was not worthy of death, inasmuch as he hated him not in time past. Because of the fact that he was not worthy of this death, meaning he didn't deserve to die. You ever heard? You know how like when someone passes away, or someone dies of a sudden death of an accident, you always hear they didn't deserve this, they didn't deserve to die. He was a good brother, he was a good sister, he didn't deserve to die. He was unworthy of this. He took care of his family. He was just going to work. So he can, he was about to get, his daughter wanted ice cream. So, he was just out and about to get his daughter ice cream, and then an accident happened. He was unworthy of this. He was just out and about to help his brother cut some trees down. He was unworthy of this. He didn't deserve this death, right? Inasmuch as he hated him not in time past, because there was no hatred towards his brother, right? This is what can happen, but it's not supposed to happen. But the Lord set this up so there would be no murder in Israel. Like the Lord set these laws up so we would not kill each other. Like the Lord didn't set up these laws so it's free game, so we can kill each other. Like that was the problem with Israel. We took these laws and we were like, the Lord's giving us permission to take this brother out. No, Salakia. This was not what it was about. You understand? This was so we did not kill each other. And the spirit behind this law, because the Bible says the law is spiritual. The spirit behind this law is for you to not be hot-hearted and to have a goddamn conscience and think about the things before you do them. Think about what you do before you do it. That's the spirit behind this. Before you go and just react, think about before you do it. Think about every variable, every scenario. And sometimes in order to do that, you need a third party. That's why the Lord set up counselors in Israel. Because we need at times a third party, right, to handle these situations. Alright? Verse 7. Wherefore I command thee, saying, thou shalt separate 3 cities for thee. It's like a word. What's it now? Thou shalt separate 3 cities for thee. So these are the cities that the Lord wants us to separate. Wherefore I command thee, saying, thou shalt separate 3 cities for thee. For this very reason, why these cities should be separated. Alright? Alright? Now let's jump back to Joshua. Let's jump back to Joshua chapter 20. So we're going to start at verse 3. Well, okay, we're going to start at verse 2 again. We're going to do a recap on verse 2. Speak to the children of Israel, saying, appoint out for you cities of refuge, wherefore I spake unto you by the hand of Moses. We just got finished reading when the time of this was spoken, right, by the hand of Moses. We just got finished reading it, right? Whereof I spake unto you by the hand of Moses. We just got finished reading of where this was spoken to the children of Israel by the hand of Moses. Verse 3, that the slayer that killeth any person unawares and unwittingly may flee thither. Right? So this is the same thing that Moses was saying, but now Joshua is now putting it into place, because now Joshua is in the land that the Lord gave us for an inheritance. Alright? That the slayer that killeth any person unawares and unwittingly, meaning ignorantly, not knowing, not purposely done, by accident, may flee thither, there for Old English. Old Quaker English for there. And they shall be your refuge from the avenger of blood. So shall be your refuge from the avenger of blood. So this city shall be your refuge, right, during the time of the avenger of blood, right, from the avenger of blood, meaning that person that wants your life for accidentally taking the life of someone, of his loved one, someone that he liked, someone that he was close to, his friend, his buddy, just a fellow Israelite at the end of the day. Alright? Verse 4. And when he hath doth flee unto one of those cities, shall stand at the entering of the gate of the city. So it says, and he that doth flee, meaning the one that's going, the one that's fleeing away, unto one of those cities. So whichever city is close to you. Like, you better know these cities like the back of your hand. You better know where to get to them. Because if you don't get to them in time, that's your tail. Alright? It could be as bad as that's your life. Right? Unto one of those cities shall stand at the entering of the gate of the city. So who's ever fleeing, they're going to stand in front of the gate of that city. And shall declare his cause in the ears of the elders of that city. So the cause meaning he's going to explain the situation to the elders of why he's standing in front of the city. Alright? Now, of course, there's a reason why you have to explain the situation of why you're in this city. Because we're not just going to let you in this city if you purposely murdered somebody. Because there's a law against that, and we're going to throw you in prison, or we're going to give you a death penalty. So like in Israel, it's a death penalty for you to murder another Israelite. So we're going to give you the death penalty. If you explain the situation and the elders are like, nah, you murdered that brother, that sounds like you murdered him, purposely done, you are being put to death right there and then. So you have to explain your cause. They shall take him into the city unto them, and give him a place that he may dwell among them. So once he explains his cause, and the elders see like, okay, this is the situation, it was an accident, we did not mean to kill this brother, and we have in our law that this city is specifically established and set up and separated so you can come here to live your life. Here you go. Verse 5. And if the avenger of blood pursue after him. Now, Slaki, on a sidebar, if I'm not mistaken, the so-called white man had refugees come. There's laws in other lands of our oppressor and oppressors that allows you to go to different countries for refuge when you commit a crime against somebody. They get it from here. Salaki, if I may add. Salaki, our oppressors have laws within their own country and have different countries set up as refuge for their people to go to when they commit a crime. It may not be just about murder, but it can be any crime. There are refugee camps and etc. for these type of people. Right? They get it from here. It's in the Bible. Right? Verse 5. And if the avenger of blood pursue after him. So meaning if the avenger of blood comes after this brother or sister. Right? Well, specifically it says him, so it's a brother in this case. Then they shall not deliver the slayer unto his hand. So if their brother's in that city, they can't just give that brother up for nothing, because it's in our law to keep him in that city to be safe. Salaki. Because he smote his neighbor unwittingly and hated him not before time. So the reason because of this, right, is because it was an accident. It was unwittingly. He unknowingly slayed him. All right? It wasn't purposely done, so we cannot give him up to you. Now, of course, if it was purposely done, we would have done the job for you. And if we did not, we would have gave you the brother. All right? But it's in our law, it's a death penalty for you to murder another brother. But if it was accidentally done, this is what you would do. And this is how we would go about it. And this is how the Lord set it up for Israelites to do so. Verse 6. And he shall dwell in that city until he stand before the congregation for judgment. Now, at the end of the day, it said for judgment, meaning punishment. Meaning there's still a punishment for you accidentally slaying this brother. There's still a punishment for it. You can't just kill someone and get away with it. There's still some form of punishment. Even though it's an accident, there's a punishment for it. Whatever that judgment may be, there's a punishment for it. And unto the death of the high priest that shall be in those days. Right? Then shall the slayer return and come unto his own city and unto his own house, unto the city from whence he fled. So it says until he stand before the congregation for judgment, and unto the death of the high priest that shall be in those days. So until the high priest dies, and until he gets his judgment, meaning his punishment for accidentally slaying the brother, he cannot leave that city. Alright? Then shall the slayer return, meaning once this time is done, once he fulfills his time in that city, right? Like this is the form of, it's not really prison, but he has to stay in that city. So if he had a wife, he can't see his wife until that high priest dies. If he has children, he cannot see his children until that high priest dies. That's his punishment, right? That's his punishment, that's his judgment for accidentally killing that brother. Why? Why would that be his punishment? Because even though it was an accident, right? there's always a way to prevent accidents. Like making sure that brother stood far away from the tree. So when you did swing your axe, it didn't kill the brother. Or if it was a car accident, right, you should haven't been speeding. The speed limit is 70 miles per hour. Why are you going 80? You know what I'm saying? Like, this is your punishment right here. You can't see your kids. You cannot leave this city until the high priest goes and until you fulfill your punishment, whatever the elders or the judges give you, whatever the case may be. All right? Why? Because there was a way to prevent this. This is not the Lord. This is another way that the Lord is trying to tell you He is not okay with any brother or sister murdering each other for no damn reason at all. Even if it is an accident, you are not to do it. It's not allowed. There's always a way to prevent a brother's or sister's death. Or there's a way to prevent a brother and sister from harming each other and killing each other. There's no excuse for it. This is the spirit behind this law. Alright, that's the spirit behind this law. Alright. And come unto his own city, and unto his own house, unto the city from whence he fled. Alright. From whence he came from. Alright. Verse 7. And they appointed Kadesh in Galilee, and Mount Naphtali. Right? So one of these cities was Kadesh in Galilee, in Mount Naphtali, and Shechem in Mount Ephraim, and Kirjatharba, it's like Kirjatharba, it's like Salakia, Kirjatharba, which is Hebron, in the mountain of Judah. All right. So these are the places where they appointed these cities. Verse 8. And on the other side, Jordan, by Jericho eastward, they assigned Bezer in the wilderness upon the plain, out of the tribe of Reuben, and Ramoth in Gilead, out of the tribe of Gad, and Golan and Bashan, out of the tribe of Manasseh. These were the cities, verse 9, these were the cities appointed for all the children of Israel, and for the stranger that sojourneth among them, that whosoever killeth any person at unawareness, at unawares, might flee thither, and not die by the hand of the avenger of blood, until he stood before the congregation. Alright? So there was always a proper way of handling these things. Even in Israel, you did not take upon yourself to give justice. You would wait until you guys all stand in front of a judge, in front of the congregation. Alright? That's what you would do. So the places of these cities were in Kadesh in Galilee, in Mount Naphtali, Shechem, and Mount Ephraim, and Kirjatharba, which was in Hebron in the mountain of Judah. And on the other side, Jordan by Jericho eastward, they assigned Bezer in the wilderness upon the plain of the tribe of Reuben, and Ramoth in Galilee out of the coastal tribe, and Golan in Bashan out of the tribe of Manasseh. Now, if you guys read it correctly, Joshua did exactly what the Lord said to do. He separated it within 3 parts on each coast. Alright? Alright? Because remember, when we go back to Deuteronomy, let's go back to Deuteronomy chapter 19. Right? When it said, verse 3, 19 verse 3, thou shalt prepare thee a way and divide the coast of thy land, which the Lord thy God giveth thee to inherit, into 3 parts, that every slayer may flee thither. Those 3 parts is in Joshua, verse 20. Alright, you can find those 3 parts in Joshua, verse 20. Alright, which is Kadesh, Shechem, and Kirjatharba. And those 3 parts is Bezer, Ramoth, and Golan. Alright, those are those three parts within the land of Israel, which the Lord said for us to inherit. Alright? With that, I say Amanyan, which means to stand. Men of Israel, we're going to give a courteous salute to the brothers. Men of Israel, Madam Shabbat, Amanyan, Barak, Yahweh Ba'ashim Yahweh Shah Barakatah, Yadin Matah, Sar La'akwafim, which means turn and face the sisters. Men of Israel, we're going to give a courteous salute to the sisters. Men of Israel, Madam Shabbat, Amanyan, Barak, Yahweh Shemar Alathon Ba'ashim Yahweh Shah, Yadin Matah. With that, class dismissed.